or sick of. The Labour Party was briefing that the fact that there wasn't a left alternative meant that they could get people essentially voting for them at the next general election because they have no other choice, which tells you democracy is fucked in many ways. And in terms of my own journey to get here, the question of me leaving the Labour Party was a matter of when, not if. This is not the Labour Party many of us have grown up supporting. This is not the Labour Party that the trade unions founded. This is a Labour Party that is obsessed with freebies, with corporate giveaways, with working in the interest of the super rich. It is not a party that is fighting for the working class. It is a party that has cut disability benefits, it has taken away winter fuel payments, it has trashed its record when it comes to LGBT liberation, especially on trans rights. It is selling arms to a genocidal apartheid state. So this crosses many red lines, and to MPs who are still in the party, if those weren't your red lines, then do you have any? That's the question I ask. Involved in the New Party project. Some people have been involved for years, if not months, and I was approached, and obviously it made perfect sense that we can do something that's never been done before. It isn't the way parties are usually run. I think the right wing thought that they were having, a great laugh at our expense, and they were like, it doesn't even have a name. Well, if 700,000 people support something that doesn't have a name, then guess who's really laughing? It's us at you. We're building something. Yeah. To your question, 700,000, over 700,000? No, I did not think we would get that number. Yes, I thought we'd hit 200,000, 300,000, but we hit 500,000 in about 3 days, which tells you that there is something very special going on, and it is the responsibility of all of us to making sure that it is democratic, it is member-led, it really does change British society forever, and that is a responsibility I take very, very seriously.
I wanted to just ask now, because you've been one of the most powerful voices in Parliament and outside Parliament about the genocide in Gaza and the role of the Labour government. And obviously this was a major issue, or it was made a major issue, the issue of anti-Semitism during the during the Corbyn period, when he was leader of the Labour Party. And often it was conflated, anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism. And I think that we're in a different situation now with anti-Zionism being more mainstream. There's less obstacles and people are more open about it, which they should be. But a lot of people have said to me, ask Zarah about the position on Zionism of the new party. But there's two sides to that. One is, what's your position on Zionism, and what do you think the new party's position should be on Zionism? As an ideal.
Thank you. So one of the things we have to be honest about was some of the mistakes that were made under the Corbyn period, and adopting the IHRA was a mistake. Conflating anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism was a mistake, so much so that one of the lead authors, Kenneth Stern, has criticised it and has criticised organisations and anyone who decides to adopt this policy. I am an anti-Zionist. Occupied West Bank, anyone who sees the genocide happening in Gaza, anyone who learns about the Nakba, anyone who understands what settler colonialism is, will find themselves also identifying as an anti-Zionist. And the political climate in our country, with the media class as well as the political class who had tried to destroy the Palestinian solidarity movement, were very happy conflating the two. Anti-Semitism is a very serious issue. Like all forms of discrimination, we have to root it out. It's societal. Anti-Jewish discrimination, anti-Semitism is something that all of us on the left have to actively, root out. But that's not what we're talking about here when we criticize the Israeli government, when we say that they are war criminals, that they are guilty of apartheid, that they are conducting a settler colonialism. All of these things are factual. And it's not just my opinion. The UN has countless resolutions, the ICJ has countless advisory positions. This is a government on trial for genocide at the ICJ. Its leaders have ICC arrest warrants issued against their name. So this isn't a controversial position, but the smears that took place, the attacks on many people inevitably have led to a place where people weren't comfortable or confident in saying that they're anti-Zionist, and I'm glad that we are in a place that we can, but it shouldn't have happened this way. There should have been robust challenge when the political establishment, the media establishment came, in opposition, were in opposition and attacked the Corbyn project. There should have been more robust challenge to that, and we have to learn those lessons. We have to fight back and not give these fuckers an inch. That's what we have to do.
Another question I had, you mentioned that the party needs to be democratic and needs to be responsive to members, and that was part of the problem with the Corbyn project as well, that it was seen very centralised and hierarchical. How do you ensure that this new party is set up in a democratic manner and it's not the preserve of different coteries or different cabals of people? What's your plan for that?
This is a very boring technical answer, but I think it's very important. Right now, we're setting up a conference arrangements committee. That has to be gender balanced, otherwise there's 6 MPs, 5 of them are men, and it's just me fighting for women outnumbered, and I don't think that is a way to move forward. We need to have a gender balanced conference arrangements committee. We need to make sure there's representation from trade unions, from social movements, from marginalised groups, especially disabled people. We need to make sure that our conference is accessible. If we want to engage 700,000 people, and I'm not saying every single one of those will attend, but we want to make sure every single person who wants to can take part either physically at a venue or online. So it has to be a hybrid system. There has to be motions, there has to be debate. It can't just be a rubber stamp activity. And I find that many people who have become very used to the way the Labour Party was run or other organisations need to let go of the kind of machinations of Westminster politics and mainstream politics. This has to be member-led. We need to have one member, one vote. We need to make sure that we really are engaging with all communities that we want to represent. And so the first step is obviously getting a conference, getting the policy, the strategy, even the name sorted, and then also not becoming obsessed with elections. And I think that's an easy trap. If you suddenly think, oh crap, there's local elections in May, what are we doing? But you haven't sorted out the democracy, you haven't sorted out the structures, you haven't rooted out a culture that has leaks and smears and bullying and intimidation. You need to sort those out so we are truly building something different. And then I think you need to have a serious electoral strategy, but a campaigning strategy as well. We need to be present in communities, fighting the fascists when they come to our streets. We need to be organising in food banks. We need to be organising in so many different ways, picket lines, NHS, demos and so forth. We have to be present and included in the Palestinian solidarity movement, which again, with the prescribing of Palestine Action, keeps coming under attack because they are so scared of the power of this movement and what it represents.
One thing I'm interested in personally is the trade unions that are still affiliated to the Labour Party, because you laid out very eloquently how horrific the Labour Party is and how against the interests of working people its policies are. Why are they still affiliated, the major unions, and have you got a strategy for peeling them off and bringing them over to the new party?
So obviously many of those unions were involved in the founding of the Labour Party, so there is that historic attachment that this is our party, but they have to be real with themselves and their members know it, and there's disciplination motions left, right and centre across many unions. There is this belief, and left MPs have it too in the Labour Party, about influence. But if your influence means that you've got a watered down workers' rights bill and you've got MPs that are saying anti-union things when it comes to strike action, if we think about the most recent things with the BMA, then what does that speak to? It speaks to a party that is actually happy to represent the ruling class and is quite ashamed, I think, of its trade union history and the role that trade unions play. I think if we are to build something different, should unions be affiliated? That is an open conversation. People have opinions on it either side, that yes they should be, no they shouldn't. Unions should just recommend members join the party. Maybe that'll be a better way of organising. We don't want to build another Labour Party. We don't want a Labour Party 2.0. Is there a way that we can have trade unions at the heart of what we're doing without formalising it, without giving them this block vote? And sometimes you have right-wing trade union leadership. How are you trying to address that issue as well? And I think those are open conversations, and it's cliche, but when we say it really is up to members, that's what I genuinely believe, that I can have opinions, I've got loads of opinions, we can talk about all of them, but at the end of the day, it's what do the majority of people who become members to this party, what do they want? And I think we need to have these discussions and these debates in that healthy, pragmatic way, because at the end of the day, we want to beat Farage and the fascists. We have no time for the Labour Party, and we know that our enemies are great in numbers and they're going to throw everything at us. If we think we saw it during the Corbyn period, where you've got the media, you've got the political class, you've got big money, if you think that was bad, I think it's going to be a lot worse. And are we prepared? Do we have the institutional resilience? Do we have the political education to deal with those issues? That's the work that needs to be done so we can fight them. And we actually, the other thing I think we have to understand is that the media class, not you, Matt, but you know, the rest of them, they are class enemies. The way that they operate and the papers that they write for are the billionaires who own them. And it is in their interest to constantly divide us, to stir up trouble, to try to make us concede on key issues. And we can't give them an inch.
I was going to ask about the media because this is a major point that we need to think about. Because, as you said, the attacks are going to be extreme, maybe even more extreme than we saw during Corbyn's leadership of Labour. And I don't know, from what I see, there doesn't seem to be, from certain quarters, there doesn't seem to be an understanding of what you said, which are they are the enemy. They are set up essentially to destroy any new liberatory project. For example, Jeremy Corbyn recently wrote an article for The Guardian, which I thought, after they spent 5 years basically running the anti-Semitism campaign, was strange. He should, why? And there is a really a vibrant alternative media system in this country now. So, what do you think about engagement with the mainstream media? I'm not saying I know. I just think that there should be some. There should be some awareness that they need you more than you need them, because they can get together 750,000 people in a month, and you can. They need you for stories. So I think just don't be interested in them. You know, Donald Trump's on the other side of the political spectrum, obviously quite far away, but he won the election in 2016 without basically zero mainstream media support, and he did that by speaking out about them and criticising them, and I think that's the mood of which is why your speech and how you speak now is so great and actually refreshing, because we didn't have enough of that during the Corbyn period. But yeah, what's your media strategy? How are you gonna deal with the inevitable attacks, and what do you think engagement with the mainstream media should look like?
We engage with them on our terms. We don't have to talk to them if we don't want to. And people found it, well, I'm sometimes chronically online, and I saw people on Twitter who were like, oh my God, I can't believe you haven't spoken to legacy media, because I don't want to. If we're building something, we need to make sure it's right, so why would I go to bad faith actors who are going to spin drama, psychodrama, division and all of this? It's completely unnecessary. So I've spoken to Navarra, I've done some work with the New Left Review, I'm here. I'm very selective because I don't need to give them my energy and my time. They're going to run stories regardless, but we can choose who we speak to. In alternative media, if we look at whether it's Palestine Deep Dive, if we look at Navarra, if we look at a whole host of other organisations and media institutions within the ecosystem, we literally don't need to spend so much time engaging with legacy media. Social media has a role to play, but nothing literally beats going out and talking to people where they are, festivals, knocking on their door, volunteering. Just go out and be in the real world and have those honest conversations, because the work we're talking about, if you look at the polls, and Farage is what, 30%? we've got a lot of talking to do, we've got a lot of community organising to do, and so if we think that Sky News, The Guardian, The Times or anyone else is going to, work with us and support us in our comradely endeavour, then we're in cuckoo land and we're delulu, as young people say. We have to be strategic, we have to be honest and know that actually what we have is people power, we have energy, we have enthusiasm and we have ideas. We go to them when we need to and it's on our terms, not theirs.
I'll put it out to the floor in a second, but I just wanted to ask one question about when did you know you were going to leave the Labour Party? Because you said in your speech, you said it wasn't a matter of when, it was if, it was when. When did you actually know that the Labour Party was done for you? And secondly, about the fascism thing, I agree with you. I think that it's socialism or barbarism now. The prospect of fascism is very, very real, and Farage getting into number 10. So, just on a personal note, how do you feel the weight of responsibility for this party? Because a lot of hopes, and it's a kind of historic responsibility that this party succeeds. Because if it doesn't, the alternative is so ugly that we might not come back from it. So yeah, those two questions.
Thank you. So when Keir Starmer became leader of the Labour Party, I knew it wasn't going to be a great time for the left. I think we knew it was going to be bad, but definitely not this bad. And it was easier at that time to be a Labour MP and to be a Labour member because we were attacking the Tories on their attacks on civil liberties, on their attacks on workers' rights, on how they were sending arms to a genocidal war machine. After the election, it became quite clear that the Labour Party was not going to massively change that direction of politics. And I think within 3 weeks we had the vote on scrapping the two-child benefit cap, and this is something all Labour Party affiliated unions, the vast majority of Labour MPs, even the Labour leadership itself supports in principle. But when it came to scrapping it, when you've got a choice to make, they were okay with the fact that there are millions of kids in avoidable poverty. That is unconscionable. How can you say I'm okay with kids being in poverty to satisfy a spreadsheet? That cannot be a left-wing perspective. I don't find it difficult to vote because often it's very clear-cut. Is this good for my constituents and the rest of the working class? Is this bad for my constituents and the rest of the working class? Most votes you can split into those two categories. So you'll get some MPs saying, oh, it's really difficult, I'm so stressed, I can't work this one out. It's so easy, I know what I'm going to do. And so when it came to that vote, I knew I was going to vote to scrap the two-child benefit cap. And I got an email within 30 minutes to say the whip had been suspended from me and it'd be a 6-month review. As that 6-month review approached, it became quite clear that they were not going to give it back to me. I voted against cuts to winter fuel payments. I had attacked the government basically on a weekly basis about what was happening in Gaza, and so I wasn't on my best behaviour, and that was the thing. It was a disciplinary approach, right? That I would go back and beg and be like, I'm so sorry, I will never do it again. Fuck that. If you are okay with keeping kids in poverty, attacking the elderly and pensioners, and then obviously they went on to slash disability benefits, then that has to be opposed. It's not a triangulation about, in 5 years' time I might be promoted and I might be able to do this. I can't think like that. It's about now. People are dying. Westminster and politics is a matter of life and death at the end of the day, and we always have to try to do the right thing. And when I had a meeting with the chief whip, he literally said to me, your case is a bit different, your case is a bit special because of your social media. Basically, David Lammy's not happy that I keep tweeting him to stop sending arms to Israel. Sheer hopelessness is tweet every time you post something hypocritical to say stop sending arms to Israel, and the fact that he is getting offended by those is insane. Anyway, anyway, my social media was raised, and also the fact that I characterised this as a genocide that the Labour government is deeply complicit, directly participating and enabling, to which I said, that is true, I'm not going to stop saying that. That every time I come across anyone who's been to Gaza, has family in Gaza, has, proximity to the genocide that's going on, and they tell us what we can do as MPs, they say, can you stop arms sales? That was the first thing that medical volunteers and anyone who's got family there, that's what they want us to stop. And so that I see that as my responsibility when my government, in all of our name, is happy to carry on selling arms, but they'll tell us that's not happening. They lie through their teeth. They are compulsive liars, and everyone knows it. And so I can't stop speaking up because, like I've said so many times, this is bigger than my political career. This is what future generations will look back on and say, what did you do? Did you try to stop the genocide? I would like to say I tried, and even if that was at the cost of a political career, who cares? I always say that as long as Primark and H&M take me back to where I was, I'll be okay. Like that's at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So, to your question, Matt, I knew that the Labour Party was dead, for me at least, very early on, but it became basically a matter of when, in terms of like a weekly, daily thing. Definitely when they went for disability benefit cuts, prescribing Palestine action, it just became something that I could not put off. Often we think, I'll give it a month or so and then I'll write down why I'm leaving. It just became something I literally could not do. And I think the week that I resigned was the week of prescribing Palestine action, cuts of disability benefits, which speak to what this Labour Party has become. Prescribing a non-violent direct action group for the first time in British history, saying that pensioners, most of them who are protesting or terrorists, speaks to just how rotten this party is and this government is. Coupled with the fact that we know austerity killed people and continues to kill people, to then target disabled people rather than the super rich, the corporate landlords, the billionaires, is vile and has to be opposed. And so I had to do what I had to do, and I had no regrets. It was the right thing to do. I will never regret it.
I think I've got more questions actually. It's another one that people ask me to ask you, and it's about this binary, or it's about the difference between the concerns to do with economic problems or economic issues and identity politics. And some people say, well, the new party should actually, the balance is off, was off in the Labour Party even under Corbyn, and there's this mad focus on identity politics, and that we should focus more, the new party should focus more on economic issues and issues which are to do with the everyday issues of working class people. Now, I read your interview, Oliver Eagleton, today, and you've got an interesting take on this, whether you should draw a distinction between the two or the two are inherently linked. You could just talk about that.
I think the two are inherently linked. When we look at housing, and we look at education outcomes, and we look at health inequalities, it is bad for working class people, but when you break that in terms of data, you'll see that it's black people, it's Asian people, it's marginalised identities that are disproportionately affected, and we saw that during the COVID pandemic. COVID was not a racist virus, but the way we have systemic inequalities in our society meant that it impacted people in very different ways. And the first healthcare workers that died were disproportionately Asian, and we see that across the board. So to say that we're just going to have a class-based politics, I think it's not the way we have to operate. Our neighbours are being evicted and deported. Those issues affect us all, and we can't draw these distinctions. I think we have to be able to articulate our politics in a way that is addressing people's material concerns. But we can't soft pedal our anti-racism. We can't challenge reform and reform-like Labour politics by saying, oh no, that makes people uncomfortable. We have to challenge racism and anti-immigrant sentiment wherever it rears its ugly head. For the economic policies that everyone will benefit from. When we say the working class, we mean the whole working class. We mean the white working class, the black working class, the Asian working class. If you're working class, you're working class. But we can't shy away about racism and the disparities that exist. And I think anyone who does that is doing a disservice to socialist politics, and I'm not here for that.
So it's time for you all to ask questions.